Welcome to Bedtime Legends. Every night we open a different page from humanity's story. Some chapters are filled with mighty empires, others begin with a single campfire beneath the stars. Tonight's journey is one of those stories, so make yourself comfortable, let your thoughts grow quiet, and together let's step into the past. Before we begin, take one slow breath in and let it drift away. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing waiting for your attention, no questions that need answering before morning. If sleep finds you along the way, don't worry. History has waited thousands of years. It will still be here tomorrow. The first light of dawn spreads gently across the rooftops of Changan. The city is already awake. Somewhere beyond the walls a rooster calls. A wooden door creaks open. The smell of breakfast fires and steaming grain drifts into the cool morning air. You stand near the Western Market district, where merchants have gathered long before sunrise. Around you is one of the greatest cities the world has ever known. During the Tang dynasty, Changan was home to perhaps 1 million people, making it one of the largest and most sophisticated cities on earth. Its streets were carefully planned, its neighborhoods organized into walled districts, and people from countless lands walked its avenues. Persian traders, Sogdian merchants, Buddhist monks from India, travelers from the steppes, diplomats from distant kingdoms. The world seems to have gathered here. In the growing light, a caravan is making its final preparations. Bundles of silk are carefully wrapped in cloth. Wooden chests are filled with fine porcelain. Bales of paper are secured with rope. Tea, compressed into bricks, is stacked among the cargo. A few small boxes hold spices and medicines. Not every merchant will carry every item all the way west. In truth, the Silk Road is not one long road stretching from China to Europe. It is something much larger, a web of routes, thousands of paths crossing mountains, deserts, and rivers. Most goods will pass through many hands before reaching their final destination. A piece of silk woven in China may travel through the hands of dozens of merchants and journey for many years before someone in a distant Mediterranean city finally touches it. Nearby, a camel lets out a low groan. Another kneels patiently as bundles are tied to its back. The animals that will carry this caravan are Bactrian camels, recognizable by their 2 humps. They are well suited for long journeys across cold deserts and dry lands, capable of carrying heavy loads over remarkable distances. The merchants move slowly and carefully. Nothing is rushed. A forgotten rope or a poorly packed crate could become a serious problem many weeks from now. One man checks a list written neatly on a strip of paper. Another carefully seals a ceramic jar. A young apprentice counts the bundles for a second time. The caravan leader walks among them all, saying little. He has traveled these roads before. He knows how long the journey may be, months, perhaps years. Some merchants will never see every end of the route themselves. Many will trade their goods in one city and return home, while others continue farther west. The Silk Road is less like a single journey and more like a river, with goods, stories, and ideas slowly flowing from one place to another. At last, the eastern sky begins to glow gold. A great drum sounds somewhere beyond the market. The city gates will soon open. The merchants gather their belongings. A few family members have come to say goodbye. An older woman adjusts the collar of a traveler's robe. A small child hugs his father's leg. Another family offers one final package of food for the road. There are smiles, a few tears. Long journeys have always carried both hope and uncertainty. The streets begin to fill with movement. Porters push carts. Officials walk to their duties. Monks make their way toward temples. The city seems to breathe and awaken around you. Then, from somewhere ahead, comes the deep sound of wooden gates opening, slowly, patiently. The western gate of Changan swings wide. Beyond it lies another world, roads leading toward distant mountains, deserts of sand and stone, great caravan cities, strange languages, unknown horizons. The first camel rises, then another. The caravan begins to move. Its bells ring softly in the morning air. The sound is gentle, almost musical. You take one last look at Changan. The golden roofs shine beneath the rising sun. Smoke curls from thousands of chimneys. The great city is beautiful in the morning light. Then, with the slow and steady pace of the caravan, you pass through the gate and begin the long journey west. Ahead lies the Silk Road, a road of trade, a road of stories, a road that has connected distant peoples for centuries. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another page of history is already waiting to be turned. The bells of the camels ring softly in the cool morning air. Behind you, the great city of Changan has slowly disappeared into the distance. Its walls and rooftops are now hidden beyond the gentle hills, and only a faint haze marks where one of the world's greatest cities still stirs with life. Ahead lies the road. At first it is broad and well kept. The earth has been packed firm by generations of feet, hooves, and wagon wheels. These roads connect the cities and provinces of China, carrying officials, soldiers, messengers, and merchants from one end of the empire to the other. The Tang emperors maintained an impressive network of roads and relay stations. Official couriers could travel remarkable distances by changing horses at these stations, carrying news and imperial orders across the empire. The merchants of the Silk Road travel more slowly. There is no hurry. The road to the western regions is measured not in days, but in months and sometimes years. The caravan settles into its rhythm. The camels walk with patient, swaying steps. Leather straps creak softly. Small bells tied to their harnesses chime gently with every movement. The sound becomes almost musical. Around you, the countryside is green and fertile. Wheat fields stretch toward the horizon, and small villages appear from time to time. Farmers pause from their work to watch the caravan pass. Children wave excitedly. One merchant smiles and waves back. For many people in these villages, a passing caravan is a glimpse of the wider world. Some of these camels may carry silk that will one day reach Persia. Some may carry tea that will travel across mountains and deserts. Others carry paper, one of China's great inventions, which in centuries to come will spread westward and change the way countless people record knowledge and preserve stories. As the day goes on, the villages become fewer. The houses grow farther apart. The fields slowly give way to open grassland and rolling hills. The landscape feels larger, wilder. The road ahead seems endless. At midday, the caravan stops beside a small stream. The camels kneel one by one. Bundles are inspected. Water skins are checked. Simple food is shared. Flatbread, dried fruit, a few nuts. One of the merchants carefully unwraps a small brick of tea and places leaves into a pot of hot water. Another takes out a brush and writes a few notes. The apprentice beside him watches with curiosity. Perhaps he is recording the goods being carried, or perhaps he is simply practicing his writing. The older merchant smiles and explains that paper itself is one of the treasures of China. It is light, easy to carry, and valuable. Neither of them can know it, but this humble sheet of paper will one day help transform distant lands far beyond these mountains. The caravan rests only briefly. The road still calls. By afternoon, the land begins to rise. Low hills become rocky slopes. Blue mountains appear in the distance. Somewhere beyond them lies the Hexi Corridor, one of the great gateways of Asia. For centuries, merchants, diplomats, pilgrims and armies have passed through that narrow strip of land between mountains and desert. Without it, much of the trade between China and Central Asia would have been far more difficult. The caravan leader studies the western horizon. He has traveled these roads before. He knows that the world ahead is changing. The familiar lands of eastern China are slowly falling behind. Soon there will be deserts, great caravan cities, strange languages, new foods, and people from places the apprentice has only heard about in stories. The caravan itself stretches into a long line. The first camels are nearly out of sight. The last are still making their way over the hills behind. Large caravans like this often travel together for safety. Bandits are rare here, but the road is long and there is comfort in numbers. Already, strangers are becoming companions. One merchant shares dried fruit with another. A tired camel has its load adjusted by helping hands. Travel has a curious way of making people depend upon one another. As evening approaches, the light grows softer. The hills turn golden. Long shadows stretch across the road. Ahead, nestled beside a small grove of trees, thin streams of smoke rise into the sky. A roadside settlement, perhaps an inn, perhaps a relay station, perhaps only a few humble homes. The caravan leader raises his hand. The pace slows. A murmur of relief passes among the travelers. Another day has ended. Another small piece of the world lies behind them. Tonight, they will sleep a little farther from home than they did yesterday. And tomorrow, when the sun rises once more, they will continue west, following one of history's great roads toward horizons they cannot yet see. The morning passes, and the road carries you steadily westward. The hills behind you become lower and more distant, while the land ahead grows wider and drier. The air itself seems to change. There are fewer trees now, the grasses are shorter, the wind carries the faint scent of dust. By afternoon, the caravan has entered a different world. The western regions of China have always been places of meeting and passage. Mountains, oases, and deserts shape every journey here. Long ago, merchants learned that one does not simply cross these lands alone. One travels from one safe haven to the next. The caravan leader points toward the horizon. At first you see nothing. Then, slowly, a shape emerges from the shimmering heat. A wall, a tower, a large square building of stone and mud brick, a caravanserai. A murmur of relief moves through the travelers. Even the camels seem to quicken their pace. As the sun begins its descent, the caravan approaches the great inn. The heavy wooden gate stands open. Lanterns already hang beside the entrance. The smell of smoke and cooking drifts through the air. Inside lies a broad courtyard, its stones worn smooth by countless feet and hooves. Along the walls are rooms where travelers may sleep, storerooms for valuable goods, and stables where animals can rest. For centuries, places like this have been the beating heart of the Silk Road. Some caravanserais are humble inns, others are magnificent structures built by emperors, kings, and wealthy rulers who understood a simple truth. Trade cannot exist without places of safety. A merchant carrying silk or spices may travel thousands of kilometers, but each evening he needs water, shelter, and a place to sleep. Caravanserais provided all three. One by one, the camels kneel. Their burdens are carefully unloaded. Bundles of silk, chests of porcelain, sacks of tea, rolls of paper. Everything is counted. Everything is checked. A lost bundle here could mean a fortune disappearing into the desert. Nearby, one of the stable hands brings water for the animals. The camels drink slowly. Another man spreads fresh straw. The weary beasts seem almost grateful. As darkness begins to fall, the courtyard transforms. Lanterns glow beneath the arches. Small cooking fires are lit. The sound of conversation rises into the evening air. And then you notice something remarkable. The people gathered here come from many different lands. A merchant from Persia carefully folds a colorful carpet. A Sogdian trader speaks with a traveler from India. A Buddhist monk sits quietly near the fire. A man from the western steppes removes his riding boots and stretches tired legs. Several languages drift through the courtyard at once. Some you recognize, others are entirely unfamiliar. The Silk Road is often remembered for silk, spices, and precious goods, but perhaps its greatest cargo was something far less visible: ideas, religions, stories, music, technologies. Paper itself traveled these roads. So did new styles of art. So did recipes, inventions, and beliefs. A melody sung in one distant kingdom might eventually be heard in another. A story told beside this very fire could one day reach lands thousands of kilometers away. The world, you realize, has been connected far longer than most people imagine. A servant brings a pot of hot tea. Small cups are passed around. The warmth feels wonderful after a long day on the road. Someone offers dates. Another shares a piece of bread. The old rule of travelers seems to apply here. A stranger on the road is only a stranger until you share a meal. The courtyard grows quieter. The camels settle into the night. A gentle breeze enters through the open gate. Above, the first stars begin to appear. The fire crackles softly. Some merchants continue talking. Others sit in thoughtful silence. A young apprentice listens wide-eyed as an older traveler describes cities farther west than he has ever imagined. A sea so large that one cannot see the opposite shore. Markets filled with glass and silver. Mountains capped with snow even in summer. The apprentice can scarcely believe it. And yet, tomorrow, he will take one more step toward those distant places. You lean back against the warm stone wall. The lantern beside you flickers gently. The road has been long. Tomorrow it will continue. But tonight, there is nowhere else to be. You are surrounded by fellow travelers from every corner of the known world. Outside the walls, the desert waits patiently beneath the stars. Inside, there is warmth, food, light, and the comforting knowledge that for one peaceful evening, everyone on the Silk Road has found a place to rest. Morning arrives quietly at the caravanserai. The first light of dawn spills over the courtyard walls, painting the stone and timber with shades of gold. A few merchants are already awake. One tends a small cooking fire. Another carefully repacks bundles of silk. The camels, rested from the night, rise one by one from the ground. The long road west awaits. As the great gate opens, you notice something unusual. Horsemen are approaching. There are perhaps a dozen of them. Their horses are small but sturdy, their movements calm and unhurried. The riders wear practical clothing of wool and leather, with bows slung across their backs and curved sabers hanging at their sides. A murmur passes through the merchants. Then, to your surprise, many of them smile. The newcomers are Mongols, not conquerors today, protectors. The caravan leader walks forward and exchanges a few words with the commander. There is a respectful nod, and soon the riders take their places at the front and rear of the caravan. The journey continues. But something has changed. The merchants seem more at ease. Conversations begin more quickly. Someone hums a quiet tune. An apprentice who looked nervous yesterday now walks with greater confidence. For much of history, long-distance trade was dangerous. Bandits, local wars, and changing borders could bring an entire caravan to ruin. Then, in the 13th century, something remarkable happened. The Mongol Empire expanded across an enormous portion of Eurasia, stretching from the Pacific Ocean nearly to the shores of Europe. Its conquests were often violent, and entire cities were sometimes destroyed. Yet once the wars ended and the empire stabilized, a long period of relative peace followed across much of the Silk Road. Historians call this period the Pax Mongolica. the Mongol peace. For merchants, it changed everything. Roads that had once been uncertain became safer, travel became easier. Goods, ideas, and people moved across Asia with a freedom that had rarely existed before. The horsemen ahead of you are part of that world. One of them rides beside the caravan leader for a time. Another checks the condition of the road. A third circles back, ensuring none of the camels have fallen behind. Their presence is reassuring. The road itself seems less lonely. By midday, the caravan reaches a small relay station. It is little more than a cluster of buildings with a stable and a well, but the Mongols stop here briefly. This place is part of something called the Yam. The Mongols created one of the most impressive communication networks of the medieval world. Across their empire, they established relay stations, often a day's ride apart. Official messengers could arrive exhausted, exchange their horse for a fresh one, and continue onward. Some messages crossed thousands of kilometers with astonishing speed. News from distant lands could travel from one end of the empire to another in a matter of weeks. Marco Polo himself would later write with admiration about these relay stations and the efficiency of the system. The merchants drink water while the horses are given a short rest. Then the journey resumes. The landscape around you has changed again. The hills are lower now, and broad grasslands stretch toward the horizon. The sky feels impossibly large. A hawk circles high above. The only sounds are the wind and the soft jingling of camel bells. One of the Mongol riders begins speaking with a merchant from Persia. Though they come from lands separated by thousands of kilometers, they share enough words to understand one another. This, too, is part of the Silk Road. Not merely the movement of goods, but the meeting of peoples. A man from China may drink tea beside a merchant from Samarkand. A Persian traveler may hear stories from a monk who once walked to India. Ideas move along these roads just as surely as silk and porcelain. As the afternoon fades, one of the horsemen points toward the west. Far in the distance, mountains rise like blue shadows. Beyond them lie more deserts, more caravan cities, more roads. The journey is still only beginning. The setting sun turns the grasslands amber. Long shadows stretch across the earth. The caravan slows. Tonight's camp will be made beneath the open sky. The Mongol escorts dismount and help choose a good place to rest. A small fire is lit. The horses graze quietly nearby. The camels settle onto the ground. You sit beside the fire and look out across the endless plain. The world feels vast, yet somehow, beneath the protection of these riders and the peace of the great roads, it feels a little smaller too. For tonight at least, the long journey west seems not frightening, but full of possibility. Above you, the first stars begin to appear, and somewhere beyond the darkening horizon, the Silk Road continues its ancient path into the night. The fire burns low. One by one the merchants settle beneath their blankets, and the Mongol riders keep a quiet watch beneath the stars. Sometime during the night, the wind changes. When morning comes, it carries with it a faint dryness. The caravan rises early, the horses are saddled, the camels are loaded once again. Then the journey west continues. By midday, the grasslands have begun to thin, the earth becomes stonier, and the distances between shrubs grow wider. The mountains still stand on the horizon, but they seem impossibly far away, as though they have not moved despite days of travel. The world is becoming emptier and quieter. The caravan leader pauses on a ridge and studies the land ahead. Few words are spoken. Everyone understands what lies before them. The great deserts of Central Asia. The Silk Road crossed some of the harshest landscapes on earth. To the north lay the Gobi, a vast region of gravel plains, rocky valleys, and cold deserts that stretched across Mongolia and northern China. To the south lay the Taklamakan. Its name is sometimes said to mean, "You may go in, but you will not come out." Whether or not that translation is entirely correct, the warning feels appropriate. The Taklamakan is one of the largest sandy deserts in the world. For centuries, travelers avoided crossing its heart. Instead, the Silk Road bent around its edges, following chains of precious oasis towns where water could be found. No caravan could survive long without them. As the afternoon passes, the road becomes little more than a dusty track. There are no villages now, no farms, no children waving from fields, only the soft sound of the wind and the bells of the camels. The merchants speak more quietly than before. The desert has a way of encouraging silence. You begin to understand why caravans traveled together. In these lands, solitude can be dangerous. A single traveler who loses his way may never find water. An injured animal could leave a merchant stranded far from help. A sandstorm might erase the road entirely. But together, the caravan becomes something stronger. Many eyes can watch the horizon. Many hands can pitch camp. Many water skins can be shared. For thousands of years, cooperation has been one of humanity's greatest tools for survival. As the sun sinks lower, the caravan reaches a shallow stream. The water is not deep, but everyone treats it as a treasure. The camels drink slowly. Water skins are carefully refilled. One merchant uses a small cloth to filter sand from the water. Another carefully measures how much remains in each container. In the desert, water is counted as carefully as gold. Entire cities grew and prospered simply because they stood beside springs or rivers. Without water, there would have been no Silk Road, no caravan cities, no trade, no journeys such as this one. The camp is made on a low rise overlooking the plain. Tonight there are no walls, no caravanserai, only the open sky. The fire is small, for there is little wood to spare. As darkness falls, the desert reveals another face. The heat fades quickly. The air becomes cool. The silence deepens. Far to the west, the mountains are painted purple by the last light of the sun. Above them, the first stars appear, earlier than yesterday, and brighter. Without forests or cities nearby, the heavens seem endless. The Milky Way slowly emerges like a river of pale light flowing across the sky. An apprentice looks upward in wonder. An older merchant smiles. He has seen these stars many times before. He says that no matter how long the road becomes, the stars remain faithful companions. They watch every traveler, every camel, every fire. For thousands of years, merchants, pilgrims, and wanderers have looked upon these same constellations. The stars have seen empires rise and fall. They have watched countless caravans cross these empty lands, and tonight they watch yours. The fire crackles softly. Someone pours the last of the evening tea. A camel and settles into the sand. The wind moves gently across the plain. Beyond the glow of the campfire lies only darkness and distance. Tomorrow, the caravan will venture deeper into the deserts of the Silk Road. But for now, there is nothing to do except rest. The world has become wonderfully simple. Only sand, only wind, only distant mountains, and above them all, a sky filled with ancient stars. The night passes peacefully beneath the stars. When dawn arrives, the fire has become a bed of glowing embers, and a thin layer of dew rests upon the blankets and saddles. In the desert, even this little moisture feels like a gift. The caravan rises quietly. Tea is prepared. The camels are loaded once again. The long road west continues. At first, the morning seems calm. The sky is pale blue, the wind is gentle. But one of the Mongol riders studies the horizon with narrowed eyes. Far to the south there is a strange color in the air, a faint brown haze, almost like smoke. The rider says nothing at first. Then he points. The caravan leader sees it immediately. A sandstorm. There is no panic, no shouting. The desert has taught these travelers patience. They have prepared for this possibility since the day they left Changan. The pace slows. Orders are given calmly. Bundles of silk and paper are covered with thick cloth. Ceramic jars are secured with extra rope. The camels are drawn closer together. Every traveler wraps a scarf or cloth around the mouth and nose. The Mongol escorts ride to the edges of the caravan, their eyes fixed on the approaching horizon. Meanwhile, the sky changes. The blue begins to fade. The sunlight grows dimmer. The wind slowly strengthens. But before the storm reaches them, the caravan passes something that causes everyone to fall silent. At first it seems to be a cluster of rocks. Then the shapes become clearer. A broken wagon wheel, a collapsed tent frame, half-buried crates, the bleached bones of a camel, the remains of an old caravan. The desert has nearly reclaimed it. Sand covers much of the site, but enough remains to tell its story. No one knows what happened here. Perhaps a sandstorm, perhaps illness, perhaps a shortage of water. Perhaps the caravan simply became lost. The Silk Road brought great wealth and connected distant worlds, but it was never without danger. Some journeys ended like this, quietly, far from any city, far from home. One of the older merchants removes his cap for a moment. The apprentice beside him says nothing. The abandoned camp is a reminder. The road deserves respect. Then the wind grows stronger. The first grains of sand begin to skip across the ground. The caravan moves away from the ruins and prepares to wait out the storm. The camels are made to kneel. Their loads remain tied in place. Several are tethered together so that none can wander. Travelers sit close to the animals, using them and the baggage as shelter from the wind. The Mongol riders dismount and cover their faces. Then everyone waits. The storm arrives slowly. There is no great roar, only the steady sound of wind. The air becomes golden, then amber, then brown. The distant mountains disappear entirely. The world shrinks. 100 paces become 50, then 20. The apprentice looks around nervously. An older merchant places a hand on his shoulder. This too is part of the journey. For thousands of years, caravans have faced the same storms. Experienced travelers knew that the worst thing to do was wander. In a heavy storm, people could become lost only a few steps from their companions. So they waited, patiently, quietly. Time seems to slow. The wind whistles through ropes and blankets. Fine sand settles upon clothing and packs. A camel grumbles softly. Someone pours a little water into a cup and shares it. The storm cannot last forever, and eventually, like all things, it begins to pass. The wind weakens, the air slowly brightens, the outlines of the mountains return. The sky appears once more. Sand lies everywhere now, covering footprints and smoothing the earth as though no road had ever existed. The desert has changed again. It always does. The travelers rise and shake sand from their robes. The camels stand. Bundles are inspected. To everyone's relief, nothing has been lost. The caravan leader smiles faintly. Another challenge has been met. One of the Mongol riders looks back toward where the abandoned caravan lies hidden once more beneath drifting sand. Soon, even those remains may disappear entirely. The desert keeps its own memories. As the sun lowers toward the western horizon, the caravan continues onward. The air is cool again. The bells of the camels ring softly. Behind them, the storm has become only another story for the road. By the time evening arrives, the desert has become calm once more. The wind has fallen silent, and the sand, which only hours ago danced through the air, now lies smooth and undisturbed. The caravan makes camp on a low rise overlooking the plain. There is little wood in these lands, so the fire is small. A few carefully gathered branches and dried fuel are enough to create a circle of warmth and light. The camels kneel nearby. The horses graze on sparse patches of grass that somehow survive in this dry world. Above, the first stars begin to appear, one by one, then dozens, then hundreds, until the entire sky seems to awaken. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a pale river of light, so bright that it almost seems to cast a shadow upon the earth. The apprentice gazes upward. He has never seen so many stars. Near Changan, there were always lanterns, hearth fires, and the glow of one of the world's great cities. Here, in the emptiness of the desert, the heavens seem infinite. An older merchant smiles. Out here, he says softly, the stars become our companions. For thousands of years, travelers have looked to the sky for guidance. Long before maps were drawn with precision, merchants and shepherds learned to recognize the familiar patterns of the heavens. The North Star helped determine direction. The rising and setting of certain constellations marked the passing seasons. Even in lands where roads disappeared beneath drifting sand, the stars remained, faithful, unchanging. The fire crackles gently. Tea is prepared. Small cups are passed from hand to hand. No one seems eager to sleep just yet. There is something about a campfire in the wilderness that invites conversation. Perhaps it is the darkness beyond the flames, or perhaps it is the knowledge that everyone gathered here is far from home. The Persian merchant speaks first. He tells of a fire temple in his homeland, where a sacred flame has burned for generations. Another traveler, a Buddhist monk, listens quietly before speaking of monasteries hidden among mountains, where monks spend their lives seeking wisdom and compassion. One of the Mongol riders describes the endless grasslands of the steppe and the blue sky that his people have always held in deep reverence. A merchant from the western regions speaks of churches with bells that ring at dawn. Another quietly recites a prayer he learned from his father. No one argues. No one tries to convince another. They simply listen. This, too, is part of the Silk Road, the movement of ideas, the meeting of beliefs, the sharing of stories. Buddhism traveled these roads from India into China. Nestorian Christianity reached the East centuries before many people realize. Islam spread across Central Asia and became part of the great caravan cities. Ancient beliefs from Persia, China, and the steppes all met one another here. The Silk Road carried more than silk and spices. It carried the thoughts of humanity itself. The apprentice listens to every word. The world suddenly feels much larger than he imagined, yet also somehow smaller. People in distant lands pray, hope, and wonder beneath the same stars. They love their families. They fear the unknown. They seek meaning. Perhaps people are not so different after all. The fire burns lower. One by one, the conversations become quieter. Someone pours the last of the tea. Another places another small branch onto the embers. A camel sighs softly. Far away, a night bird calls once, and then falls silent. The Milky Way arches across the heavens like a great road of light. Perhaps every generation has looked up at it and imagined a journey, a path through the darkness, a reminder that there is always something beyond the horizon. You think of the abandoned caravan left behind in the desert. You think of Changan, now many weeks away. You think of the distant western seas that some of these merchants have seen, and others only dream of. The world is enormous. Yet tonight, gathered around this little fire, it feels wonderfully close. A handful of travelers from different lands sit together in peace, sharing stories and warm tea beneath the stars. The flames become glowing embers. The night deepens. Tomorrow, the journey will continue. There will be more roads, more cities, more wonders waiting beyond the horizon. But for now, there is only the fire, the soft breathing of the camels, the cool desert air, and above it all, the ancient stars, watching quietly as they have watched every traveler who has ever crossed the Silk Road. The journey continues. Days become weeks, weeks become months. The rhythm of the road has become so familiar that it almost feels like another kind of home. The bells of the camels still ring softly each morning. The tea still tastes best beside a small fire. The stars still return every evening. Yet the caravan itself has changed. It is smaller now. Along the way, some merchants have said their goodbyes. One remained in an oasis town where he had sold all of his silk to another trader. Another turned south with a smaller group heading toward India. A Persian merchant departed weeks ago, his business completed. The apprentice, who once counted dozens of camels, now counts far fewer. This is the way of the Silk Road. Very few people travelled from one end to the other. Most journeys were made in stages. Goods passed from caravan to caravan, changing hands many times before reaching distant lands. A bolt of silk woven in China might travel farther than the merchant who first carried it. This morning the road crests a gentle hill, and there, spread out before you, lies a city. Its walls glow warmly in the afternoon sun. Blue-tiled domes catch the light. Tall towers rise above crowded rooftops. Gardens and orchards surround the outer walls. The caravan leader smiles. At last. Samarkand. For centuries, cities like Samarkand and Bukhara have been among the jewels of Central Asia. Long before the Mongols and long after them, these cities stood at the crossroads of the world. Caravans from China arrived here. So did merchants from Persia, India, and lands far to the west. The city gates stand open. As the caravan enters, the world suddenly feels busy again. After months of deserts and open plains, the sounds are almost overwhelming. Voices fill the air, water splashes in fountains, children laugh in the streets, donkeys pull carts laden with goods. A musician somewhere nearby plays a stringed instrument. The smells are new as well. Fresh bread, roasted lamb, spices, sweet fruits. The apprentice stops in wonder. He has never seen such a place. The people here dress differently. Some wear long robes of bright blue and green. Others wear tall hats trimmed with fur. The languages are different too. Persian, Turkic tongues, Arabic. Words from lands the young traveller has never seen. Yet somehow, everyone seems to understand the language of trade. The caravan reaches the market square. What a marvellous place it is. Stalls overflow with goods from every direction. Fine glassware from the west, carpets with intricate patterns, dried fruits and nuts, paper from China, spices from India, jewellery of silver and gold. One merchant carefully unrolls a piece of silk. A crowd quickly gathers. Another trader opens a small wooden chest filled with porcelain bowls. The blue patterns on their surfaces seem almost magical. Money changes hands. Scales are brought out. Bundles are inspected. Deals are made. The Silk Road comes alive here. But goods are not the only things being exchanged. A scholar discusses astronomy with a traveller from another land. A physician shares remedies made from unfamiliar plants. A monk copies passages from a manuscript. An architect studies the design of a distant building. Knowledge itself is being traded. Paper, which first spread westward from China, has already begun changing the world. Books are becoming more common. Libraries are growing. Ideas travel faster than ever before. One merchant laughs and says that the Silk Road is like a great river, not a river of water, a river of people and stories. You think of Changan, now many months behind you. You think of the abandoned caravan in the desert, the campfires, the stars, the storms, and now this bustling city, where so many roads meet. The world suddenly feels enormous and wonderfully connected. As evening approaches, lanterns are lit around the market. The setting sun turns the domes and rooftops golden. The remaining merchants gather their belongings. Some of them will continue west. Others have reached the end of their journey. A few may stay here for months, perhaps even years. The apprentice sits quietly beside a fountain. He watches the people passing by, and for the first time, he understands something. The Silk Road is not truly a road at all. It is a meeting place, a great conversation between distant peoples, a bridge stretching across continents. And tonight, in one of its most beautiful cities, you have arrived at the very heart of that conversation. The journey to the west continues. The months become seasons. The apprentice has grown taller. His face is a little darker from the sun, and his hands have become rough from rope, leather, and long days on the road. The caravan is smaller still. Many companions have departed in distant cities. A Persian merchant remained in Samarkand. 2 traders turned south toward Baghdad. One old traveler decided he had journeyed far enough and chose to spend the winter in a city beside a river. Only a handful remain. Those who began this road together now feel less like fellow merchants and more like old friends. The land has changed once again. The deserts are behind you. The air is softer now. The hills are green in places, and olive trees dot the landscape. Then, one morning, the caravan climbs a low ridge. The wind shifts. A strange scent fills the air. Not dust, not sand. Something fresh, something alive. Salt, the sea. At first, the apprentice thinks he is imagining it. Then he sees it. Far below, shining beneath the afternoon sun, lies an endless sheet of blue, the Mediterranean. It stretches to the horizon like another sky laid upon the earth. No mountains can be seen beyond it, no opposite shore, only water. The caravan stops. Even the oldest merchants seem to pause in quiet appreciation. After so many months of deserts and grasslands, the sight feels almost unreal. The road descends toward a great harbour. The sounds of the city reach you long before the gates. The cries of gulls, the creaking of masts, the calls of sailors, the sound of hammers striking wood. As you enter the port, the world becomes busy once more. Ships of every size rest in the harbour. Small fishing boats rock gently near the shore. Larger merchant vessels sit farther out, their masts rising like forests of timber against the sky. Some have arrived from Egypt, others from the Italian city-states. Some are bound for islands far across the sea. The smell of salt fills the air. So does the scent of fish, spices, and fresh bread. It is entirely different from the smells of the Silk Road, yet somehow it feels like a continuation of the same journey. The market beside the harbour is alive with activity. Porters carry crates and barrels, sailors coil ropes, merchants inspect cargo. A camel kneels as one final bundle of silk is carefully untied. The apprentice watches as the precious cloth is lifted aboard a waiting ship. After months crossing mountains and deserts, the silk will now continue its journey by sea. This happened more often than many people realize. The Silk Road was never only a road, it was a network, a web of land and sea routes that connected China, India, Central Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Many goods reached the Mediterranean and then traveled farther still aboard ships. A bolt of silk might cross deserts by camel and seas by sail before finally arriving in a market in Venice or Constantinople. Porcelain, spices, paper, and precious stones followed similar paths. The world was connected in ways that would surprise many people today. A sailor passes carrying a crate of citrus fruit. Nearby, a merchant from the West examines Chinese porcelain with great care. Another negotiates the price of pepper from India. Languages drift through the air. The harbour itself feels like another meeting place of the world. The apprentice walks to the edge of the quay. The sea laps gently against the stone. A ship's bell rings. Above, gulls wheel in the evening light. He thinks back to Changan, to the great city where this journey began, to the caravanserai, the storms, the campfires beneath the stars, the abandoned caravan in the desert. It all seems very far away, and yet every step led here. The sun slowly begins to descend toward the western horizon. Its light turns the harbour golden. The sails glow amber. The water becomes a sheet of molten bronze. One by one, lanterns are lit along the docks. The remaining merchants gather for their evening meal. Some will continue by sea. Others have reached the end of their road. The old caravan leader smiles softly as he looks upon the harbour. At last, they have reached the edge of the world they knew. Before them lies another sea, another road, another horizon. The Silk Road does not truly end here. It simply changes its shape. The camels rest quietly nearby. The ships rock gently upon the water. And as the sun finally slips below the sea, you realize that after so many months of travel, there is a deep and peaceful satisfaction in simply having arrived. The Mediterranean lies behind you now. Its salt-scented air and gently rocking ships have become memories, just as the deserts, caravanserais, and distant cities became memories before them. The road east has been quieter. Fewer goods are carried now. The camels are lightly burdened. Some merchants return with silver and fine glass. Others carry books, new ideas, or gifts for loved ones waiting at home. One man carries only a small wooden toy he bought in a western market. Another has carefully wrapped a bolt of cloth for his wife. A third keeps a tiny seashell in his pouch, a reminder of the great sea he had never imagined seeing. Years have passed. The apprentice who once left Changan is an apprentice no longer. The road has changed him. He has crossed deserts and mountains. He has shared tea with strangers who became friends. He has learned words in languages he had never heard before. He has watched the stars from lands so distant that they once seemed impossible. And now, at last, the familiar hills of home rise before him. The caravan is very small. Only a handful remain from the company that first departed so long ago. Some merchants settled in distant cities. Some chose new roads. Some will never return. This too was part of the Silk Road. Many merchants spent years away from home. Some spent most of their lives travelling. A journey from one end of the known world to another could take years, and no traveller could ever be certain of what awaited him upon his return. The sun hangs low in the sky. Its light turns the fields golden. The bells upon the camels ring softly. Then someone stops. Far ahead, beyond a small grove of trees, smoke rises from cooking fires. A village. Home. No one says anything for a moment. Then one of the older merchants laughs quietly. Another wipes a tear from his eye. The apprentice feels his heart quicken. The caravan moves on. The road becomes familiar. A stream that once seemed ordinary now feels precious. A line of old willow trees appears exactly where he remembers them. The world has changed, and yet it has remained the same. Then the first figures appear. A woman standing outside a house, an old man leaning upon a walking stick, a child running toward the road, then another, and another. The quiet village suddenly springs to life. Voices call out, names are shouted. A little girl races toward one of the merchants as fast as her legs can carry her. A boy who was an infant when the journey began now runs beside his father, trying to keep pace. Laughter fills the evening air. There are embraces, tears, stories waiting to be told. One merchant kneels and simply holds his family for a long moment, saying nothing at all. The apprentice stands quietly. His own home lies just beyond the next hill. For a while, he simply watches. The setting sun paints the sky in shades of orange and gold. Birds circle above the fields. Somewhere nearby, supper is being prepared. The smells of home drift upon the evening breeze. After years of travel, the road has finally come to an end. Or perhaps not. Because as one journey ends, another always begins. The silk that crossed deserts and seas will continue to travel. The stories shared around distant campfires will be told again. The ideas that journeyed along the Silk Road will continue to shape the world for centuries to come. And somewhere tonight, beneath another sky, another caravan is loading its camels. Another merchant is saying goodbye to family. Another apprentice is taking his first steps toward the horizon. The Silk Road never truly slept. It simply passed its stories from one traveler to the next. You take one final look at the setting sun. The long road lies behind you now. The mountains, the deserts, the caravanserais, the stars, the great cities, the sea. All of it has become part of one long memory. And as evening settles gently over the village, the bells of the camels finally fall silent. Thank you for traveling these ancient roads with me. And if sleep found you somewhere along the way, perhaps beside a desert fire, or beneath the stars outside a caravanserai, or while watching the sunset over the Mediterranean, don't worry. The caravans will depart again tomorrow. The campfires will burn once more, and the Silk Road, patient as ever, will still be waiting beyond the horizon.